Welcome to the Workplace Minute, powered by H3HR Advisors and sponsored by WorkHuman. Thanks for joining me for a quick update on what's important in the world of work. My name is Steve Boese. Today on the Workplace Minute, rather than reporting or commenting on a specific workplace event or a little bit of news, I want to share a few thoughts about an event I attended last week and what it suggests about the impact of AI on professional work. By now, we've all heard about and possibly even experienced the effects of new and powerful AI technology in the workplace, and how AI can be a threat to many professional workers and occupations. And there have been certainly several announcements of pretty substantial job reductions in tech companies and other companies that have been attributed either fully or at least partially to AI, reducing the need for human workers. And these announcements are only increasing in frequency as we close out the first quarter of 2026. So at the risk of sounding like the kid in the old folk tale claiming that the sky is falling, a few observations I made last week at a tech conference put on by Phenom made me think about the pressure that AI will put on organizations to cut costs and people. They're only going to accelerate and potentially rapidly. So if you're not familiar with them, Phenom is a recruiting and talent management technology company that makes software tools that are used by predominantly large enterprise-scale companies to help them handle processes like their career site, candidate outreach, candidate assessments, screening, interviews, and more. They're a really impressive, innovative, and successful company with a clear stated mission to help 1 billion people find meaningful jobs. And as you would correctly assume, as a successful enterprise technology company, Phenom, as well as every other similar company in the space, has wholeheartedly embraced and incorporated more and more AI capabilities throughout their products. These AI capabilities help their customers, which are again some of the largest companies in the US, if not in the world, become better and more efficient in their recruiting, screening, selection, and onboarding processes. And how AI helps manage these processes is what was the most interesting and potentially game-changing aspect of what I observed last week at the conference. So I'll share two examples which illustrate two things. One, the power of these AI tools to help organizations meet their goals, which are mainly to make better hiring decisions, make them faster, and remain compliant and accountable for the process overall. And two, how these tools clearly threaten to disrupt and likely eliminate the need for a pretty significant number of professionals currently involved in the hiring process. So think about recruiters, sourcers, or admins who facilitate the overall recruitment processes. AI is absolutely coming for many of these jobs. Of that, I have no doubt. The first example is one that probably will make the most sense to you, and it's how AI tools help large volume hiring of relatively less skilled workers. So the example was from a well-known global chain of convenience stores. This company incorporates AI to assess a large number of applicants and creates short lists of candidates who are most likely to be successful in the roles at the store locations. This assessment, which is custom built with experts from Phenom, allows the company to ask very few upfront questions of the applicant and speeds up the overall process of applying quite significantly. So think of the assessment as being more important really than the background, education, or prior experience of the candidate, which are the things a traditional resume would show and highlight. Then the AI comes and scores the assessments for the hiring manager, who most often does not have the time to read the applications themselves, and the AI can even automatically schedule the in-person interviews for the highest-ranked candidates. So for the hiring manager, the AI essentially lets them approve a job requisition and then just wait for the interviewees to show up. AI makes this process simple, efficient, and once the assessments are set up, it hardly needs any human intervention at all. Thousands of positions are being filled at this company with very few full-time employees having to manage the process. Plus, the company can track precisely how the assessment results are translating into work performance and use that data to make any needed adjustments in the future. In the past, companies were lucky to just guess at what were the traits and characteristics of people that would most likely lead to good performance. Okay, so AI as a means to manage a high volume, repetitive, and lower stakes hiring process may not seem all that disruptive. But the next example I will share might make you think differently about how AI will change hiring and threaten the jobs of recruiters in a more meaningful way. Now, this case study comes from a large enterprise technology hardware and services company that wanted to hire for a new executive role, a VP of enterprise transformation. This would be a pretty senior position, usually the kind of role that requires 10 or 15 or more years of major work experience, lots of knowledge of modern technologies, and the proven ability to apply technology and manage major change projects. This would both be a hard role to fill, but also one that would draw lots of interest and probably a high volume of candidates. And these candidates, especially the most interesting ones, would probably already be in senior positions currently and be the kinds of professionals that typically are given so-called white glove treatment by recruiters. They often expect and get custom outreach, personal attention, and many would maybe not even want to formally apply at all. Rather, they'd be expected to be wooed and cajoled into joining the organization, trying to be lured away from their current job. Many likely wouldn't have an updated resume. Some might not even have a current LinkedIn profile. Now, these are some of the reasons executive recruitment has been so time-consuming and so expensive for companies. It's historically required lots of people involved in scheduling, communicating, interviewing, and so on. And it can be outsourced to fancy third-party executive recruiting agencies that are pretty expensive as well. And traditionally, executive recruiting has had much less technology applied to that process overall compared to, say, entry-level hiring or even mid-level hiring. So fast forward to what I saw and heard last week about this particular VP of Enterprise Transformation role. The company did post the role online and publicly, and in short order received over 4,000 applications, which says something to us about the current state of the job market. But instead of time-consuming and expensive manual vetting and screening, they simply used AI to generate a most likely to succeed shorter list of about 130 or so candidates, and the other 4,900 or so candidates were not reviewed at all by a live person. Okay, so maybe that doesn't seem revolutionary. Very few companies would have the willingness or the capacity to manually review 4,000 executive-level applications and profiles. But what happened next was eye-opening and disruptive. Instead of having members of the executive recruiting team manually contact each of the 130 candidates to do a phone interview or a screen, a process that would have taken probably weeks to complete, the company leveraged a new technology developed by Phenom for AI-powered voice screening. They set up the AI interviewer with a set of questions about the candidate's background, experience, and approach. Each candidate would be asked the same set of questions, and AI would record, transcribe, and assess each of the answers. And once a candidate passed this process to the next shortlist, they were emailed a link to this AI voice interview. And what's astounding was a remarkable 73% of the candidates took the AI voice interview on the same day it was emailed to them. And overall, these executive-level candidates were satisfied with the process, as it allowed them to conduct the voice interview at any time on their own schedule, and to talk at length about their own experience. Some of these voice interviews lasted up to 90 minutes, which would never have happened with an in-person screening by a recruiter. Executive recruiters are trained to get answers, surely, but as quickly as possible, usually in less than 15 minutes. Then after this, the AI could immediately transcribe, summarize, score, and rank the interviews. And from there, the company did conduct more traditional outreach and next-round interviews for the candidates who were progressed to the next phase. And ultimately, a candidate was hired into the role who, according to the company, is now the biggest internal champion of this AI-enhanced recruiting process. Overall, the company saved hundreds of hours and thousands of dollars of internal recruiting time just on this one position alone. This case study shows that, at least in this example, the kinds of tech-powered efficiency gains we all thought were only truly applicable to large volume and lower-level role hiring can also be applied up the organization chart and utilized by more senior applicants. Now, if this example can be replicated and be proven out in other roles and industries, and I have no doubt it can, then executive recruiting, long a specialized and incredibly expensive domain, is likely to be turned on its head. These two examples, if you can see them applied more widely in companies across the U.S., tell us a story about where and how AI is going to upend the professional landscape. In these cases, it is primarily recruiters who are going to be impacted, but it's not hard at all to make similar arguments for roles in accountancy or purchasing or IT. If a big part of your job today calls for a task to be repeated at scale and becomes more valuable the more standardized it becomes, then that is ripe for being displaced by AI. It's really that simple, and it's really coming for more jobs, and fast. All right, that's it for today's Workplace Minute. Thanks so much for listening, and a big thank you to WorkHuman for supporting the Workplace Minute. This has been Steve Boese from H Advisors.